Your 20s are for fun. Your 20s are to learn. You have to make mistakes. And even do stuff like this.
Smelling very good.
Well, that was a 20-something year old, much like you. And I'm Edel Patel, your YouTube host, your trusted finance guy. That last part is for you to decide. I'm bringing you this video to give you some advice and tell you how you should not be investing in your 20s. I know that you've seen a ton of videos about how you can become a crorepati in 10 days. And I think the point that these videos try and make is that they seem to make you think that is extremely necessary in your 20s to get into investing all the go. My advice, just don't do it.
What?
So instead of focusing on investing, I'm going to tell you two things that you should be focusing on. But why should you not invest? For example, let's say you're an individual making 30,000 a month, and to prioritize your investments, you decide to pass on buying that t-shirt or going on that trip or spending that evening with your friends. All of this will probably help you save some money so that you can invest in a mutual fund that's going to give you a 12% annual rate of return. Well, if you do this same thing for 3 years, then you end up with about 2.17 lakhs saved and a profit of 37,000. 37,000 seems decent, but in hindsight, it's not really a lot. When I was in my 20s, from my first few paychecks, I bought two things that made my life really memorable. A pair of earrings for my mom and my first bike. Both of them today have given me countless experiences that are priceless. Before we get into this whole argument about not investing, there are a few things that I do have figured out. And there are two things that you really need to have. The first thing, health insurance and a term insurance. Guys, get a health insurance. Like seriously, I keep seeing this a lot with my younger friends, and a lot of people haven't even bought health insurance for their family. I get that you think you're invincible. I get that you are young and you probably won't perpetually fall sick. But in case you should, you do need one. Because you remember that 2.17 lakhs you saved? All of that will go away like this. So do get a health insurance. Do it for yourself and get it for your parents as well. The sad truth of our life is that our parents are more prone to sickness as they grow older. And it's important for you to think about this. I bought my first insurance when I was 22. 3 years later, that insurance helped cover the costs of my father's cardiac arrest surgery. I'm very fortunate that he made through, and I'm also very fortunate that that insurance was there to help me in that time of need. Also, as Variku says, make sure you separate your and your parents' insurance to ensure that your premium isn't a lot. This will leave you with some extra cash, which you can then use for your own personal expenses. The other very important thing is a term insurance. What is a term insurance though? Well, it's a type of an insurance policy that provides you coverage for a specified period of time or a term of years. If the insured person dies during the specified period, and the policy is still active, well, then the death benefit will be paid out to the beneficiaries of the policy. It's a relatively inexpensive way to provide care and support for your family. Please go on any of the life insurance and term insurance provider websites and get your term and life insurance sorted. The second thing that you should be doing is building an emergency fund. In my first job, I consciously decided to put in some amount of my paycheck into an emergency fund. That emergency fund actually helped me survive the 1 year when I was building my first startup. It helped me bootstrap it and grow it. And with that experience, I actually did the same thing the second time around. When my first startup got acquired and I got into a job again, I spent the next 3 years building another emergency fund, which helped me bootstrap Mudrex and helped us grow that to a team of about 12 before we got our first funding from YC. An emergency fund is something that will help you survive for 5 to 6 months, just in case if you lose your job or again, something improbable happens. I like to call this the free yourself fund more than the emergency fund. If you're stuck in a job which you don't like, this is your gateway out. If you want to upskill yourself, this is what you rely on. It might seem unnecessary in the beginning, but it's extremely important that for the sake of your mental health, you get this done. Now let's get to the main point. I told you earlier, investing is easy. What you should really be doing if you want to invest is pick an index fund or an ETF, set up an SIP, and just let it run month over month over month. What you should actually be obsessing about is investing your time in yourself. What you do need to do is continue to grow and learn and improve yourself. And the world today, from a job perspective, looks very, very different from what it did about a year ago. Your job might actually not exist 10 years from now in 2033.
What?
For example, who would have thought that reacting to people's videos on YouTube would be a legitimate career? Well, now it's definitely one. On the similar lines, the job of a social media manager didn't exist a decade ago. And now you can make $1 crore a year just by being funny on the internet for brands. My advice to anyone who's in their first job is to not overthink their investments, get your insurance, set up your SIP, and automate the entire thing so that you can spend your time focusing on growing your career and not just your investments. The investor Graham Duncan coined this interesting phrase called as the time billionaire, someone who has more than 1 billion seconds to live. I know it sounds cringy, but you don't want to lose that time billionaire status just wasting over investing. Take that extra free time, figure out the skills you want and the parts that you can pick up, learn the things that you really want to do, stay relevant for your industry and get that learning. Remember guys, nobody gets rich within 2 to 3 years. It's a long game. You need to keep it simple, keep increasing your learning and as a result your paycheck and not just your investments. That's what will make it happen.